Hello again, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 8-4. So yesterday's lesson was focused on generating equivalent fractions using multiplication. Today's lesson will be focused on generating equivalent fractions using division. Now, this is a little bit trickier. With multiplication, you can always multiply the top and bottom number by any number and be able to find equivalent fractions. The tricky part about doing it with division is you need to find a common factor for both of those numbers. So you need to find a number that you can divide both of those numbers by evenly and not have remainders in order to use it to create equivalent fractions. We're going to get more into this in our video, in our short video, and in our notes in just a moment. So let's go ahead and watch that. And then we'll go over the details with our notes and guided practice together.
How can you use division to find equivalent fractions?
Let's find out.
In early May, Fairbanks, Alaska has daylight for 18/24 of the day. What are some fractions equivalent to 18/24? Fairbanks has daylight 18 hours a day in May. Why is this 18/24 of a day? There are 24 hours in a day, and 18 out of 24 hours is 18/24. You need to find some fractions equivalent to 18/24. What does the model represent? It represents a 24-hour day. The blue part of the model represents the hours of daylight. What does the gray part represent?
Now, if we're talking about hours of daylight, and we know that 18 hours have daylight, that means the other hours, the remaining hours, are hours that are nighttime or they're dark, hours that we do not have sunlight.
The gray part of the model represents the nighttime hours. The blue and gray parts combined represent all of the hours in a day. A common factor is a factor two or more numbers have in common. To find equivalent fractions, divide the numerator and the denominator by a common factor greater than 1. Two common factors of 18 and 24 are 2 and 3. Divide the numerator and denominator by 2. If the day is split into 2-hour sections, what fraction of the day is daylight? 18/24 divided by 2 halves equals 9/12. 9 of the 12 2-hour sections represent daylight. 18/24 of a day is equal to 9/12 of a day. Divide the numerator and denominator by 3. If the day is split into 3-hour sections, what fraction of the day is daylight?
So here, stop and think. What's 18 divided by 3? Or you can think the other way around. You can think 3 times what number gives me 18? I know 6 times 3 gives me 18. So 18 divided by 3 equals 6. And then 24 divided by 3, or you could think 3 times what number gives you 24? 24 divided by 3 is going to give you 8.
18/24 divided by 3/3 equals 6/8. 6 of the 8 3-hour sections represent daylight. 18/24 of a day is equal to 6/8 of a day. 18/24, 9/12, and 6/8 are equivalent fractions. Could you divide the numerator and denominator of 18/24 by 4 to find an equivalent fraction? Why or why not? No, 4 is not a factor of 18, so it is not a common factor of 18 and 24. Can you divide the numerator and denominator by two different numbers? No. Dividing by 1, like multiplying by 1, does not change the value of a number. So you must divide the numerator and denominator by the same whole number, so you are dividing by 1. What is another common factor of 18 and 24?
Select your answer.
Six is another common factor of 18 and 24. You could divide the numerator and denominator by 6 to find another equivalent fraction. Now you know how to use division to find equivalent fractions.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our notes and our guided practice for this lesson. Now, like we were talking before, when we are working on finding equivalent fractions, whatever you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator. Just like with multiplication, same thing has to be done with division. In order to make sure that it's equal, you're either multiplying it or you're dividing it by a fraction that is equal to 1. Because remember, anything times 1 is itself, anything divided by 1 is itself, so it's equal. So we need to work on finding what we call a common factor. A common factor, we said, is a factor that is shared or it's in common with 2 or more numbers. So for example, I know that 2 is a factor for both 8 and 12. So that means I can use 2 times a number to make 8, and I can use 2 times a number to make 12 and get those numbers without anything extra. So 8 and 12 are both multiples of 2, which means I can skip count by 2s to get to 8, and I can skip count by 2s to get to 12. So let's take a look at an example. What is a common factor of 10 and 15? So I need to stop and think. What number can I divide both 10 and 15 by and not have any remainders? Well, I know from my basic math facts, my multiplication facts, that 2 times 5 is 10 and 3 times 5 is 15. So 5 is a number that can be used to make both 10 and 15, which means 5 is a common factor of 10 and 15. So if I had the fraction 10/15 or 10 over 15, I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So 10 over 15 is equivalent to 2/3 or 2 over 3. Now, just like we were talking about in the video a moment ago, some pairs of numbers can have more than one common factor. It doesn't have to be just one. So when we were talking about 18 and 24 in our short video lesson about the daylight hours, 18 and 24 have more than one common factor. Since they're both even, we know 2 is definitely going to be a factor. But I know I can also divide both numbers evenly by 3 and by 6. So 18 divided by 2 is 9, 18 divided by 3 is 6, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. I can do the same thing for 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12, 24 divided by 3 is 8, and 24 divided by 6 is 4. So we see that 2, 3, and 6 are factors for both 18 and 24. Let's take a look at your guided practice for this lesson. For number 1, it says use division to show 9 over 12 and 3 over 4 are equivalent fractions. So I need to stop and think, how can I get from 9/12 to 3/4? So to get from 9 to 3, I know I need to do 9 divided by 3 will equal 3. So if I did that to the top, I need to be able to do it to the bottom. I need to do 12 divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 9 over 12 is equal to 3/4. I did the math, I checked to make sure that it worked, and then I applied it. For number 2, it says, is there a fraction with a smaller numerator and denominator that is equal to 4 over 12? Explain. Well, we can look right away and we can tell immediately that both numbers are even numbers. So they can both be divided by 2. So divide the top number by 2 and the bottom number by 2. So 4 over 12 can equal 2 over 6. Now, if I wanted to, I can divide them by 2 again, right? 2 over 6, I can divide that by 2 again and for the numerator and the denominator, and I'll get 1 over 3. So 4/12 is equal to 2/6. And that's also equal to 1/3. So you can continue making equivalent fractions until you get to something where you can't divide them further, or you get to a numerator that is just 1. For numbers 3 through 8, they were asking you to make equivalent fractions. So 6/10 was equal to 3/5. We divided the top and the bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. For number 4, 8 divided by 2, 8 over 12, and 8 divided by 2 and 12 divided by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 was 6. Now we can also divide both of these numbers by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So here you can see we have more than one common factor. Next, for number 6, 10 over 12 is equal to 5 over 6. We can divide the top and the bottom by 2. For 2/10, we can divide the top and the bottom by 2 again to get 1/5. And for 10 over 100 equals something over 10. So to get from 100 to 10, we divided by 10. So that means 10 divided by 10, we also had to do up here, which equaled 1. This works very similarly to what we were doing with multiplication. Just like you know, multiplication and division are inverse operations of each other. They are opposites. So go back and review your basic facts because those are going to be very important in helping you to solve these kinds of problems. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.